today I'm going to show you guys how to fish a high pressure pond using the drop shot rig. I'm at this pond that's about 10 minutes away from my house, and we usually get 10 anglers a day at this pond. That means it's really high pressure. There are two main rules that you want to use when you're fishing these high pressure ponds. The first rule you want to use is you want to use something that people aren't typically using. I'm choosing the drop shot rig because it's more finessey than what people typically use. The second rule is you want to target the high probability fish areas, such as the structure in a pond or also the deeper waters, given that this is the summertime. I'm using a spinning rod today with 20-pound braided line and a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. Tied onto that leader, I have a little drop shot hook and then also a 3/16 ounce drop shot weight. Let's get the chesty on and I'll show you guys the types of areas I will be targeting with the drop shot rig. Okay guys, this is the first area that I will be targeting with the drop shot rig. It is one of the deeper areas in this entire pond. And the reason I'm choosing the deep area is because in the summer, the fish like to hang out in the colder water, which is at the bottom of the pond. So let's make our first cast and see if we can catch something. So all I'm gonna do with this drop shot rig is let it sink all the way to the bottom, and you know it's at the bottom when the line's slack. How I'm going to retrieve this is I'm gonna keep the bait taut on the line and I'm just gonna jiggle it back and forth. What happens when you jiggle it is that weight stays on the bottom and all the action goes into the bait. This is a very easy presentation for the fish to eat, so they tend to bite it more. All you have to do is get the bait right in front of the fish. The amount that the bait moves is the amount that I'm moving my rod tip because the line is taut. Okay guys, I just got done with my first cast with the drop shot rig. Let's take a minute to talk about conditions. When you're fishing a high pressure pond, you don't want to go on just any day. I chose a day today where there's a lot of clouds in the sky and it's low pressure. There's been a break in the weather pattern, and typically when breaks happen, the fishing picks up. So I'm hoping that these conditions will allow me to catch more fish today than I typically would if I were to fish this pond in the afternoon. Okay guys, so I arrived at this main lake point, and this will be the deepest spot in the entire pond. So let's fan cast around it and see if we can summon up a bass from the depths. Okay guys, nothing on that cast. I'm gonna fan cast this point and cover as much water as possible. Because this is a finesse tactic, you're not gonna draw fish from far distance, so you have to cover water in a methodical way. Obviously, we don't have sonars where we could see where the fish are, so it's really just a crapshoot getting your bait in front of the fish. Another important tactic when you're finesse fishing too is the pause. Letting your bait just kind of sit there and wiggle in the current could be invaluable to getting more bites. So you always want to just change up your retrieve until you find something that helps you catch fish. I'm gonna re-strategize, still using the drop shot rig, but I put on one of these little green swim baits. I think the fish are on little fry, and since the conditions are dark, I wanted to put on a darker bait. That way it's more visible in the water. Okay, so I made it over to a high percentage area. Right behind me, there's a bush. And then over there, there is a culvert that sticks out just a little bit. So the only rocky area in the pond and one of the only bushes that sticks out in the pond. This looks like it's gonna be the spot that I'm gonna grind through and work really hard to try and catch a bass in. Again, the drop shot, you can really pick apart these spots. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is cast along this bush and see if I can summon a bass out from under there. Again, when I mentioned targeting structure earlier, this is exactly what I mentioned. Okay, now I'm gonna be cheeky here and cast right in between these bushes. Again, this is the perfect spot for a predatory fish to hang out and ambush prey. Okay, no luck in that spot. Let's go over to where these rocks are. Okay, I just heard a fish blow up over here. I'm gonna walk over there and see if I can catch him again. I think it was pretty close, judging by the noise it made. Yep, fish. Woo! All right, first fish of the day in the high pressure pond. Let's go. Good to catch a fish finally. So I've seen probably 4 or 5 people pulling it out of here and no one's caught anything. And because I'm using the drop shot rig, I'm able to catch a fish, fishing in these high percentage areas. I'm gonna give this guy a release and hopefully we can catch another one. A lot of times with these rigs, since they are so finessey, you can kind of release them to the side, get the bait back in there and possibly catch another one. Okay, I got my bait ready again. Let's throw it in there and see if we can hook another one. I heard that fish hit the surface and I walked over here. Always important to adjust to your surroundings, and hooked them. Let's go, boys. I'm feeling pretty confident. Let's keep fishing. Okay. Told you guys that bush was the money spot. There's not a lot of bushes along this bank. It's a perfect ambush spot for these predatory fish. All right, guys, so I've been fishing down this bank for quite a while. Again, it is tough because I was expecting it to be tough, but I'm gonna continue to throw the drop shot for maybe another 30 to 45 minutes down this bank down here. And if I don't catch anything on that, I'm gonna switch it up to another finessey tactic, but something that's a little bigger and maybe easier seen by these bass. So stay tuned, guys. There's still odds to catch a big fish. There's always odds to catch a big fish. Looks like someone was hanging out here. Good sign of how pressured a spot is by how much junk is at the spot. So there's trash, there's clothes, there's alcohol, all types of things that make you think someone was hanging out here and fishing for a while. Okay, so I really like this spot. The reason I like this spot is because there's some brush down there, and then the bank kind of turns in here and it's really deep, and there's a stick right there, and then there's a grassy bank along here. So I'm gonna fan cast this spot and hopefully I can summon a fish up. I think I have good odds here. Another like very high percentage spot that was similar to the spot I caught a fish at earlier. Okay, I'm gonna drop it straight down right into the snag. Maybe there's a bass sitting under there. Okay, now I'm gonna see if I can get it near that laydown. Okay, that's probably as close as I want to cast to that log. Let it sink all the way to the bottom. Looks like the bait's on the bottom. Slowly retrieving. Uh-oh. That might be the end to the drop shot, guys. Great. All right, well, now it's time to re-rig. I'm gonna switch something up because I don't think the drop shot is working that well. Still finessey, just a different rig. All right, guys, the fishing is really shut down with the drop shot. So I'm gonna try the second finesse tactic of the day. That is the shaky head worm. This is the godsend in Texas when the fishing's really slow. The worm is the best bait to use around here. So the shaky head is my version of it. A lot of people use the Texas rigged worm, but this is a little more finessey and has a little better action. So stay tuned, guys. I think I'm gonna catch a big fish. Okay, so I made it over to close to where these rocks are. Again, another high percentage spot that I am likely to run into a fish at. You always want to keep your baits in areas that you think you're going to catch a fish. If you don't think you're going to catch a fish in that area, move on. Made it to the rocky area. I'm going to make a cast straight on these rocks and bring the bait back in along them. Make sure that bait gets all the way down to the bottom. Yep, there he is on the shaky head. Big fish, big fish. Let's go. Let's go, big bass, big bass. Yep. Loosen my drag. Big fish, guys, big fish. Let's go. Oh my gosh, guys, that is unbelievable. Let's go. He freaking choked that shaky head. All right, guys, I know it's not that exciting to be this stoked about a 2-pounder in Texas, but listen to me. This pond is so hard to catch fish in, and the fact that I caught 2 bass out of here in only a couple hours is unbelievable. These finesse tactics really do work in this type of conditions, and nobody's throwing them. So next time you're in your pond and you can't really seem to catch any fish, no one else is, put on a finesse tactic and you guys will be amazed at what happens. So let's go. I'm gonna give this fish a release and then we're gonna keep fishing. Here he is, give him a nice toss. There he goes. All right guys, that's gonna wrap up the video. I hope you learned something about fishing in these high pressure ponds. We were able to catch 2 fish. That might be the best day that anyone's had in this pond all summer. And the conditions have been awful. It's been so hot. Next time you guys get in a pickle and you can't catch any fish and there's a lot of people fishing the pond, put on something smaller, put on something more finessey, and you have better odds at catching a fish. I did get a pretty big fish too. I mean, 2-pounder for this pond is pretty good. But anyways, like if you like the video, subscribe if you haven't, and thanks for watching.